Hey everybody, welcome to Aurora Graphics. My name's Grant Dorsey, and today I'm going to be showing you how to transition from the side to the hood with a full wrap when you can't do something simple like fade to a solid color or put a busy pattern in there. And the first thing that you want to notice here is that the hood is sloping at somewhat of an angle here. This isn't going to work on something that's super rounded, but for most trucks and cars and things like that have a fairly straight hood, it's just at an angle, this is going to work. And so what we need is a couple of reference points for our design, say this door edge and the front tip of the hood here. And so those are going to be, or maybe we'll use this tail light, something like that, or the headlight here. But you'll need those couple of reference points so that you can line up the graphic when you get it over to the hood. And then you also are going to need to know the angle at which to rotate this when you get it there so that it's going to match up right. And to do that, very simply, we can get all of that stuff done with just a simple square. So I'm going to draw a box with my Marquee tool and dump red in it. Control backspace fills with the back color. And then what I'm going to do is bring it over here and put this corner right on the door edge, because that's what I want to use as my reference point. Then I'm going to drag the center of the transform control over here to the corner, and then I can rotate this down until it matches up. So the next thing I'm going to do is scoot the box in until I get to the corner of this headlight. And if you're not sure if you're going to get there perfectly, you can always bring out a guide. And see, if you try to switch tools in the middle of your transform, it's going to try to apply your transform. So you can control plus and minus to zoom in and out of the image, and use the space bar to pan around. So again, I'm going to try to grab this guide here if it'll let me. Here we go. I had to hold control, and I'll just stick it right on the very corner of the headlight there. So now we can bring the corner of the red box perfectly to it, and you notice we're still perfectly on here, and we've about got our angle just right. So now that that's done, we're going to click OK. And then I'm going to turn back on our design, and we're going to grab both these layers at the same time. Get this out of the way, and then we're going to drag them onto our hood template. And you can see my laptop is just about to die here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. We don't need it anymore. And so the next step here is going to be to rotate this image to where this edge is perfectly in line with the seam in the hood where you're going to trim it, and then also get the rotation, the alignment correct. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. If you notice, I've still got both layers selected, so when I go to transform, they're both going to move. But I turn the eye off on this one so you can't see it, because we don't really need to look at it while we do this. It's just going to be in the way. So I'll select this to transform, and I can grab the center of my transformation and put it anywhere I want. And so I'm going to go ahead and stick it right here on the corner of the headlight, and then I'm going to grab the whole mess and bring this over to the corner of the headlight, and then up to the line. If you need to drag out a guide to make sure you're there, go ahead and do that. In fact, I'll just go ahead and do it. And then the other spot we need to hit is right here as we rotate. And so put our rotation right on the corner of the red square. That way that's a pivot point. And then what we want to do is adjust to over here. And you can tell I'm off by just a little bit. That's because these aren't completely accurate templates as far as to scale towards each other. This is actually a 3D model I just threw together. So anyway, this is going to get the idea though. If your templates were accurate, this would match up perfectly from the corner of this headlight to this door. What we've got to do here now is turn back on our design, and then we can go ahead and get rid of this red box. And so now your design is perfectly where it needs to be, and you've also got the correct rotation angle, and so all of this should line up perfectly whenever you go to match up your seam. We're going to zoom in here, and we need to make another guide right at this hood seam. I don't know if you can see it there. I'll go ahead and turn off the design. There's my hood seam, so we're going to put another guide there, and that's going to be where we rotate our design. So with the design back on, we're going to subtract our selection to the center of the hood, and then we're going to transform our selection this way until we get plenty of overhang. And then what I want to do is drag this center portion here. I'll even shrink this up a bit so this will be more obvious, but now what we want to do is flip the selection vertically. So I'll right click, flip vertical, and then click OK. And now you notice I'm hanging off the bottom here, and so we're going to have to increase our canvas size. So Control-Alt-C, and then I'll just crank this up a ways. And you notice it got rid of our selection, so we'll just come back in here and make a new one. I'm going to transform the selection this way, then drag our center point back down to the guide, right click, flip vertical, and now we've got a solid piece that we can create our hood from. So we'll go Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. Whoops. Control-C, Control-V. And if we turn off our design, now you've got your actual hood piece that you can use. And so if you remember, we flipped this vertically, and so if you want it to mirror at this, you'll go ahead and take your transformation, flip it vertical. Remember to drag it to your guide so that your exact center line where you're going to meet up with your side file is going to land perfectly. And then I'm going to right click and duplicate this layer. Flip this vertically, and now we can butt up for the center of our hood, and our sides are going to match up perfectly. So, and if you wanted to check this, you just go ahead and drag it back onto your template, and remember to rotate it back to the exact same angle if you wanted to write that down, just to double check yourself to make sure that's going to line up fine. But this should be a perfectly mirrored section right here when it meets at the hood splice. And just a little bonus tip, if you're doing a partial wrap, a lot of times this is, you'll drag your side file in here and you're like, okay, I'm just going to scale this down to make a hood piece. This is something that's very important. You guys will like this. When you go to scale this image down, say that's about where you want your hood to look like, and then you duplicate the layer and flip it. And you butt them back up towards each other. It looks like it's doing just fine there, and everything's going to be okay. But if you zoom in really close, you'll notice that when I transformed it, I had the anti-aliasing on. And let's go ahead and create a new layer here. I'll just dump red in it, and you'll notice right here in these 2 rows of pixels, red will start to show through. And that's when I dumped the red in the layer behind it. And the reason why is that whenever you go to transform something in here, the anti-aliasing actually like feathers the outside edge of the pixels. And so when you come in here to do your hood piece, it'll actually have like a 50% opacity at that center line, and what it'll give you is a white line 2 pixels wide straight down the center of your hood. And so to avoid that, you can either mirror the image and butt it up at full scale and then shrink it down, and then you won't have that anti-aliasing in the crease, or the other way to do it is to get this single row marquee tool, and you can just come in here and select. So we're on the top layer, we're on that top section, so I'm just going to delete that row of pixels, switch to the other side, delete that row of pixels, and then we can just butt them back up together. And now you've got a perfect mirror with no partial opacity pixel line in the middle. Thanks for joining us, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on hoods. In the future, we're going to be getting on that new computer. I promise next time we have a video, it's going to be on that machine. So we'll see you next time. You got something to look forward to at least, right? Thanks again.